Hi team! Man, I used to suffer with anxiety so bad. I remember the days that I used to shake and sweat, my heart racing, breathing really quickly, hyperventilating, even when there was nothing really going on, just what was going on in my mind. I had it so bad that there were days I couldn't leave the house. The fear was just too high. People always say, but what were you afraid of? What were you worried about? Nothing. I don't know. It was just fear. Couldn't even walk out the front door. I couldn't make phone calls. I couldn't call up to pay an electric bill. It was, and again, people would say, but what exactly is it that you're worried about? It's like, I don't know. I just can't face it. I can't do it. That's the nature of the condition. People who have never suffered it just aren't going to get it. They're just not. I remember shaking, sweating, heart beating on my way to work, unsure if I was going to be able to make it to the shift, let alone get through the shift, because I was on the verge of a panic attack pretty much at all times. Severe. Debilitating. That's how bad I used to suffer with anxiety. These days, that all seems like a distant memory. It's actually now quite challenging to recall what that felt like. I can vaguely recall the memories, and I go back and with some effort can recall what that felt like, the sensations of how that felt, the constant nervousness, the dread, the horror, racing thoughts, the constant overthinking, obsessive thoughts, intrusive thoughts, compulsive thoughts, all of it, overthinking constantly. But these days now, it's a long distant memory, like a storm cloud that has just gently begun to disappear over the horizon. These days, I feel calm, relaxed. I can finally sleep. I never used to be able to sleep at all. Terrible insomnia with the anxiety. I can access work. I can access relationships, friendships. I can access a fairly normal life. I say fairly normal because whether I'm normal or not, the jury's still kind of out on that one, so bear with me. But a fairly normal life, a functional life might be a better way of putting it. The level of worry, trepidation, apprehensiveness, nervousness that I experience now is all within the realms of what is perfectly normal, perfectly healthy, perfectly functional. We forget that some level of worry, some level of apprehension, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily negative. We don't often think of it like that, but just a small amount, just a tiny amount. So this video today, I wanted to talk a little bit about what facilitated that transformation. That psychological transformation and physical transformation. I'm not saying all of that to kind of brag or say, hey, look how great I am, or dismiss or diminish that period of anxiety. It's not to say, oh, that was all silly back then. I shouldn't have gone through that. And it's silly that other people go through it. That is not the purpose of this video at all. Instead, I just want to share some of the powerful principles and practices that I learned in order to recover from this potentially debilitating condition, potentially life-threatening condition. And it is my hope that by sharing some of this, you can either begin your journey to recovery from anxiety. I will add as well that some of these principles and practices can help massively with other psychological, psychiatric conditions such as OCD, depression, insomnia, the list goes on. There's a lot of them are kind of interrelated in some way. So it is my hope that by sharing some of these practices, principles, and just sharing some of my experiences, what I have found to be true in my experience and in my life, in my recovery, maybe you can either start your recovery, or perhaps I can offer just a few extra tools, a few extra, sometimes just principles, just understandings, just a different way of looking at things can be a massive, profound, radical shift in the way you experience your mind, the way you experience life, the way you experience your thoughts. Sometimes all it takes is just a shift in perspective. Now, I wish I could say that it was just meditation that facilitated the entire transformation, because that would be nice and simple, wouldn't it? And you can run a meditation-only build to recover. Now, in some cases, that will be the case, and some people will. That's the only thing they added to their life, and their anxiety vanished. It does happen in some cases. For me, it was crucial, and it was pivotal. And as a meditation coach now, obviously, I've got a vested interest and a slight bias towards saying, yeah, no, it's meditation, it's all meditation. But that's a little too simple. There is a slight nuance here. Meditation was incredibly powerful, incredibly pivotal, and yes, provided the ground by which the rest of my transformation could take place. But there were many other factors involved too. In my recovery from anxiety, one of the most crucial activities, behaviors that I added to my life was exercise, physical exercise. Don't turn the video off. I know a lot of people just went... I know a lot of people just went straight for that off button. It's not 100% necessary. I'm just sharing my experiences. Physical exercise was massive. But I wouldn't have been able to access that exercise if it wasn't for the meditation. In meditation, we learn to stay present, to focus only on the here and now, to not focus so much on the future, and instead focus attention entirely within the present. To rest within the awareness of the presence of being in the here and now. And by practicing that, I could go to the gym, which would have been unthinkable before, because I'd have been worried about, and look, I imagine I'm speaking to people who have some experience with anxiety here, so you know that none of these things are, yeah, I mean, tick them off. It'll be like bingo, I guess, a little bit, but let me know if any of these are kind of familiar, right? I didn't want to go to the gym because I didn't know what to wear. Would I be wearing the right clothes? Do I need to bring a water bottle? How loud is the music going to be? Is it going to be busy? What if I go there and it's a time when, I don't know, the school's in and it's shut or something and I look really stupid? What if I forget my wallet and I can't pay and I can't go in? What if I'm wearing the wrong trainers? Should I bring a towel? What if it's mandatory to have a shower before going to the gym? Now, people who have never suffered any anxiety or anything like that, well, good luck to you. But if you have suffered this kind of anxiety or OCD or anything, a lot of that will be very familiar. So I'm just right off the bat, you're not alone in this, okay? And this is not stupid. This is the way the condition affects your thinking. Any one of those things that seem, I will admit, seem very minor to me now, any one of those things would have prevented me from going to the gym. The anxiety, what if I forget my wallet? No matter how many times I checked to make sure my wallet was in my pocket, I was terrified that I somehow didn't have the right cards, didn't have the right wallet, didn't have the right clothes, towels, just so much. But upon learning the practice and principles, the technique of meditation, I could just focus on the moment. I wasn't worried about what's going to happen when I get to the gym. I wasn't worried about that at all. I was only concerned with but how am I feeling right now? I can just focus on the sensations of breathing. I can simply focus on all of my senses, what I can hear. Can I just pick out the sound of bird song or something, or the sound of traffic noise, and just here and now, just here and now, just this. And I'm walking down to the gym, and I'm not worried about what's going to happen when I get there. I'm just thinking one foot in front of the other, just one foot. And how does that feel? Just one step. And naturally, in the early days, look, I know some of this sounds this is too simple, too good to be true, right? That's your anxiety talking. That's the condition talking, right? I thought exactly the same thing. And I was like, what's this staying present thing? This can't possibly work. I was trying to practice that whilst I was walking to the gym. The amount of times I tried to walk to the gym, turned around and walked back again, because it was just too much. But I started practicing just stay present, just the here and now. What can I hear? Can I focus on the sensation of breathing? Can I focus on the sensation of walking? The focus on the temperature on my skin, just here and now. No future, no past, just here and now. And yes, occasionally then I would go back up into my mind and I'd be right off into that thought stream again. What about this? What about that? What if it's busy? What if people laugh at me? What if, because, I was kind of overweight when I started. I was obese when I started in the gym. What about my body consciousness and stuff? What are the mirrors like? I didn't want to, I'd go up into my head. But then because of the practice of meditation, the principles, I could return back to the present and just recognize, my thoughts had gone off into the future again. And then I can return to the present. So by practicing that, I could then access the gym and find, naturally, obviously, all of those fears completely baseless. There was nothing to be worried about, which I knew anyway, but now there was no fear. Doesn't matter if it's busy. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if I'm wearing the right clothes. Who cares? That's the state of mind you end up in. It's just whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have the same physiological activation that it used to have. It's not to say you turn up to the gym naked because you just don't care about anything anymore. It doesn't quite work like that. You still have a normal, natural level of planning, apprehension, just a little bit of nervousness, whatever you need, okay? It just works. And then from exercising in the gym, that actually has a profound physiological effect. It burns away the adrenaline. It burns away the cortisol. Man, it brings a smile to my face because I remember those early days, right? In the very beginning of my transformation. I'm so blessed to be able to talk about it now. Let me just open a window because it's a little warm in here. You can probably see just get a bit of fresh air in, maybe on this side. Oh, no. Man, so I remember going into that gym, hitting the weights, hitting the treadmill, everything. And just a new feeling came over me, just a feeling of groundedness, a feeling of calm. And I know now that's because the physical exercise was physically burning the anxiety chemicals out of my body. And that's when I started to think, There's something in this. Something can change. This thing, this worry thing. Now I'm practicing the presence and I feel good in the gym. Something's changing here. And I noticed over a period of months, as I was hitting the gym and practicing presence so that I could access the gym, that I slept a lot better. I felt calmer in myself. And something began to change. So I always emphasize the importance of exercise in your psychological recovery. Sounds counterintuitive, sounds like they're not related, but they are so related. The mind and body are not separate organisms. They're not separate. They work together. Now, that's an example of how meditation and the principles of meditation helped to facilitate the rest of my transformation, physically and psychologically. Because now I could access the things that I needed to access in order to have a full and total recovery from my anxiety. So, a few other things here. Because I need to just be honest. Like I say, I'd love to just focus on the meditation aspect because it's nice and simple and people like to hear that. So it would be more popular if I could just say, no, it's just this, it's just the presence thing, just stay present and that's it. There's a little more to it. So we have the exercise. I also, for a short time, did take some medication. I'm not on any medication now. Again, I'm not saying that as a kind of brag or to say, look how good I am or anything. And I'm not saying you don't need medication ever. Some people do need to be medicated for their whole life. If that's you, that's fine. It's not a problem. But for me, eventually I chose not to and said, actually, this medication doesn't work for me anymore. But for a short period of time, it really did help. I'm just being honest. In that early period of time when I first started to do a lot of my deeper work in trying to transform body and brain, I also accessed cognitive behavioural therapy, which was remarkably powerful. And I remember, it's another very bright, very positive memory of sitting in the waiting room, waiting to go into that very first therapy session. It chokes me up a bit because it was such a profound moment for me. Dare I say it was one of my earliest spiritual experiences, because I sat waiting to go into the therapist. It's the first time I ever had a therapy session, and boy, does that come with a lot of emotion, right? I was sat there in the chair waiting outside, and I was practicing presence. I can remember the smell. You know the smell of doctors' waiting rooms? It's always the same, no matter where you are or where you go. It's always the same. I could smell it. It's almost that kind of dry, sweet kind of smell. I can remember the buzzing, the hum of the fluorescent light, the way that fluorescent light looks and the shadows that it created, the feel of that soft pleather chair, you know, the doctor's waiting room pleather softness, the softness of the cushion underneath. I was fully in the moment. And something, just that intuition of, wow, hang on. I used to get so nervous in times like this. Previously, my anxiety would have prevented me from going to the therapy that was designed to help me with my anxiety. The tragic irony of this condition. The condition itself prevents you from accessing the help that you need. Sad. But upon finding this presence, now I could sit, waiting to go in, and I was so calm. My heart was just beating at a normal pace. Normally it's beating at 140 BPM, blood pressure through the roof, but now... And this could also perhaps be, in fact, due to the fact I was training so much more. My cardiovascular system was a little more functional. My heart didn't need to beat so fast to get the blood around. And a profound intuition rose that said, you can do this, Corinne. There's something's changing now, something's shifting. And then I went into that first session. Yeah, it's hard, it's tough, but she began to teach me some techniques, and it's kind of from that moment I say, actually, my anxiety stopped. It was still there. The severity, the intensity of the thoughts, the physiological reactions, they still happened. But I was now functional. I had a method. I had a framework to understand what was happening. And so at that point, the anxiety was no longer a disorder, because I could access real life and function healthily, despite the fact the anxiety was still there. And then over the years, things just changed. The anxiety got less and less and less. The more I did the exercise, the more I meditated, the more I learned about these principles. And again, total transparency and honesty is what I strive for at all times. CBT eventually ran its course. I couldn't squeeze any more juice out of that orange, right? And that's fantastic. Learned everything that I could, and it was time to kind of graduate on. And then I did go through a round of counselling and therapy to take a look at some of the deeper underpinnings, and started to look at things like the inner child work and how my earlier experiences of some emotional abuse that I had received when I was a child contributed towards where the anxiety came from in the first place. But by the time I was accessing that therapy, the anxiety was no longer at the level to be considered a disorder. Meditation facilitated all of this. Although the actions and behaviours and the services that I accessed provided the stability of a permanent recovery, it was the meditation that made it possible. So, I'd like to teach you how to do this. How to really do this in a way that's going to get into the hard wiring of body and brain. You may have tried something like it in the past, but I'm just going to encourage here and invite you to just forget all of that. Whatever you've been taught previously, it was probably more akin to relaxation or hypnotherapy. Those things aren't going to touch anxiety. They're good, they're great, they're fantastic. Okay, relaxation, hypnotherapy, and forms of meditation that are more kind of to do with visualization and relaxation. I'll say it again, but those things are fantastic and great, but they're not going to penetrate deep enough to get into the limbic system, the hard wiring, the deeper stuff, the stickier stuff. Okay. So what I'd like to do is just ensure that you understand the basic principle, so that you can understand why it works and how it works, and give you the technique and principle so that you can go and practice this anywhere at any time. But to begin with, it would be most useful for you to do it in a very safe, enclosed, secure, well-controlled environment, such as in your bedroom, such as in your car. I love this car for that reason. It feels controlled and, just a space where you feel you most likely won't be disturbed. In the beginning, there will come a time, as I say, I was meditating on my way to the gym. I was meditating in a doctor's office outside the therapist's room. Meditating. You might think that's impossible, that's crazy. But eventually that's the level that you will arrive at. Total peace, presence, serenity at all times. But to begin with, a nice controlled environment I would recommend as preferable. I will also add here, just before going into this, you've probably spoken about your anxiety to a few different people, and they'll have said things, some very dismissive things, very invalidating things, like, oh, but what exactly are you worried about? They don't get it, all right? And the amount of times, I'll tell you, the amount of times that I heard, oh, well, why don't you just go for a walk? Why don't you have a bubble bath? Why don't you have a cup of hot chocolate? Yeah, okay. Man, if I had $1 for every time I've heard that, I'd be, well, it depends on the conversion rate, but I'd have a few £1,000 at least. I'm saying that because I just want you to know I get it, and it's not stupid, and you're not a coward. There's a very deep physiological reaction happening within you. You've got no control over it. And what I'm giving you here is not that dismissiveness. I don't want to invalidate what you're feeling. But occasionally, due to the simplicity of the practice and what I'm trying to convey, what I'm trying to transmit here, due to its simplicity, it will at times come across as slightly patronizing. Because I know this because I felt this when I was on the other side of things. And I'm listening to the meditation teachers reading the meditation books and listening to Eckhart Tolle, and they're saying, you know, just stay present. I'm like, man, you don't get it. You don't understand what I'm going through. But I do understand what you're going through. I know that this does sound too simple, but it is the very simplicity that is the core of the power of this. Because it's so simple, you don't have to engage your mind. It is the mind that is causing the problems. It's a problem of the mind, and so we're going to be letting go of the mind. The simplicity of presence. So this isn't one of those go for a walk, have a bubble bath, have a cup of hot chocolate, dismissive self-care things, Instagram anxiety recovery stuff, honestly. You can tell it bugs me, right? So, from this point onwards in this video, we're actually going to start going into a kind of meditation itself. We could call this an informal meditation. We don't need to do anything strenuous. We don't need to focus and hold on to the present all tight. Nothing like that. We're not interested in that. We're just going to start bringing ourselves into a more present space. And don't worry about, I'm not getting it right, or I can't focus. You'll probably have these thoughts and beliefs that I just can't meditate. I don't have the right brain for meditation. That's the anxiety talking. Again, preventing you from accessing the very technique that you need in order to prevent the anxiety. The anxiety itself says, I just don't have the right brain for this. Okay, we're not going to engage with any of those thoughts and recognize you don't actually need the mind or the brain at all to meditate. All you need is consciousness. And that's always there, always present. Just the awareness of being. Just conscious awareness, that's it. Don't worry about what's going on in the mind, okay? So, if you do have those thoughts, I've tried this before, it doesn't work, I just don't have the right brain for this, I don't have the time for this, just understand all of that is just the anxiety talking. Bringing yourself fully into the here and now as best you can. Understand. This may be the first time or the early times that you've ever done this. And recognize you will get lost in your stream of thoughts again. It will happen. That's okay. If you find at any point during this that your thoughts have become lost, that you have gotten hooked on a train of thought and you're off again with the mind chatter, with the constant thoughts, the physiological reaction in the body. Simply return your attention back to the breath. Focus on the sensations of breathing and just continually bring yourself back into the present, the here and now. There is no future, there is no past, there is only now. accepting even the presence of those anxious thoughts and anxious feelings in the body. Even if you're in a very highly activated and triggered state, just that is the present experience you are having. Just awareness of that experience, but continually return to the sensations of breathing. Allow the breath to rise and fall. Don't try to force any particular rhythm. Don't force the breath in or push the breath out. Just allow the breath to rise and fall. And focusing on the sensations of breathing brings our attention, our awareness into now. There are two aspects to anxiety. We have the psychological aspect, the cognitive aspect. This is the mind chatter, the overthinking, the images of the future, the frantic and chaotic thoughts. This is the cognitive aspect of anxiety. That is the part we feel we suffer the most. Continually bringing to mind an infinite number of things that could go wrong. Anticipation of horrible negative emotions. That is the cognitive aspect of anxiety, the part we feel we suffer the most. And the second aspect is physiological. We feel it in the body. Muscular tension, racing heart, sweating, hyperventilation. Those are the two aspects of anxiety. Continue to stay present, bring yourself fully into the here and now, and just, if the body can relax a little, just allow an expansion. And any time you get lost in thinking, or the words that I'm speaking are hitting something, triggering something perhaps, just return to the sensations of breathing. Don't even worry so much about what I'm saying. The words will go in anyway, okay? So don't overthink the words I'm saying. Simply return to the sensations of the breath in the body. Because there are two aspects to anxiety, we're going to require a two-stage process to begin our meditative practice for alleviating and overcoming this condition. Now, this might be a surprise. This might bake your noodle a little bit. In that, we often believe the way it appears is that we have anxious thoughts and then the body reacts. It's actually the other way around. This is a big secret here. Not many people know this one, and it's a real shame they don't. It's actually the other way around. We don't have anxious and worried thoughts and then the body responds. We don't have those memories of you suddenly remember you have something to do tomorrow. You suddenly remember you have that big event coming up. You suddenly remember, you suddenly start thinking about something that you are anxious about, and then the body reacts. It's a massive surprise to realize actually the feeling is there in the body first, and your thoughts, your mind detects the presence of the anxious body. If we were to speak biologically, the brain detects the presence of stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, and assumes there must be a threat present because of the presence of this chemical in the bloodstream. And because it detects this, the anxious thoughts, the cognitive aspect, arises. That's what's happening in your body. It's not the other way around. We don't have the thoughts and then the stress hormones are secreted into the body. Other way around. Sorry for the technical descriptions, but it's good to understand, have an underpinning of knowledge so you know why we do the practice that we do. Return to the breath. Presence of being. Awareness only of what is now. Just this. Just this. No future, no past. So, because there are these two aspects, physical and psychological, we must take a rational and logical approach to our meditation regarding anxiety. There need to be two aspects. Now, although anxiety originates first within the body and then rises up into the mind, in order to access the deeper physiological parts of the anxiety in the body, we must be able to shine the light of our awareness down through the fog of the mental chatter and noise. We must clear away the fog of the cognitive aspect of anxiety first, before descending and shining the light of our presence into the body. So, coming into your awareness of your thoughts right now. And let us clear the fog of anxious cognition. Have you ever noticed that it's only ever now? In your experience of life, have you ever experienced the future? You will have experienced thoughts relating to the future. Apprehension, worry, planning, anticipation. But those are just thoughts. Thoughts have no inherent power to harm you. They are just thoughts. And how curious this is, that thoughts arise within the present moment. Huh. So after all that time worrying about the future, we realize we have been worried about an illusion. There is no future. Surprise. There never has been. Never. Not once. There never will be. It is only ever now. Experientially. Now, the mind will have a lot to say about this, because the mind needs the future in order to keep doing its job, and the mind doesn't want to get fired. So the mind will object and say, no, there is a future, there's a real future. This guy talking on YouTube, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, so let's do a little experiment. Bring yourself fully into the here and now by focusing your attention on the breath. Just this, just what is now, even the presence of anxious thoughts, they're just happening now. So just this now, let's see if we can pinpoint the exact moment that the future begins. Has it started yet? I mean, the future is so important and so terrifying. It would be a really good idea to actually find the moment that it begins, so that we know. But hang on. We just experienced that it never actually starts. It's only ever now. So this pulls the rug from underneath all anxious thoughts. This will begin to dismantle and collapse the validity of anxious thinking. How can you be worried about a future that does not exist? So you are always safe to return into this present moment, recognizing that you are not creating the present and you are not ignoring the future. You are simply recognizing the truth that your experience of life only ever arises within the now. Return to the sensations of breathing, and this is a very good opportunity here to use sound to bring us into the present. Just because there is activity, noise, colour, people, words, none of this has to pull our attention away from this moment. Just experience now. Curiously, you will notice, despite the fact there is a true and good understanding that it's only ever now, and experientially you've just found the future never begins, the mind still tries to keep chattering. So no, there is a future, there's a next moment, there's something's going to happen. But those thoughts happen within the now, so just be aware of those too. Here is the security of presence. It's always now, whether you believe it is or not. Regardless of what the mind says about it, it doesn't matter. The truth is that it's only ever now, that there's no denying that experientially. To go into the existence of time, we need concepts, we need theories, we need frameworks. But all of that is thought, and thought arises now. Through that same logical process, step by step, we can dismantle the belief in the existence of something called the past. There are previous events that may still have a residual effect in the body, profound and powerful effects in the body, absolutely. But you are safe from the past. You cannot travel back to the past. It's been and gone. It's had its day. It's only now. If you have some particularly negative events in the past, and so have I'm not dismissing those. They happened. The residual effect of those events is what needs to be addressed. And they will be addressed within the now. This is why we cannot rely entirely on processing the cognitive aspects of past events. It's too shallow. It's too high up in the mind. The past has been and gone. That everything that happened, happened. What we must do in order to heal is bring the awareness into the body, in the now, in the safety and security, the loving presence of awareness now. You are safe from the past, and you are safe from the future because they don't exist. Bring yourself into this moment here, breathe deeply. Fully here and now, just the sensations of breathing, and begin to feel that freedom. The mind says, this is too good to be true. That's just another thought. Now you're meditating. This is it. You're doing it. This is the power. Continually do this. This is the practice. Return to now, return to now, return to now. You will find your thoughts are infuriatingly persistent, continually rising up into your mind and clawing at your attention. Recognize you have a power to simply withdraw your attention from thought. Redirect attention back to the breath, and the thought can no longer stand. In order to exist, a thought must have your attention. You have no power over what thoughts arise, but you have tremendous power over where you direct your attention. Attention means to stretch towards. So stretch towards the sensations of the breath. Thoughts arise. Don't pay any attention to them at all. And they go away. Like a dog clawing at your leg trying to get some food. Leave it alone. It will claw for a while, then realize its attempt is futile and it will go somewhere else. Bringing attention fully into the space of being by focusing attention on the sensation of breathing alone. Notice the relaxation, the simplicity of this. Any thought that arises, simply pay it no attention whatsoever. Focus attention on the breath. You are now meditating. And I will add one of the most, if not the most, powerful meditation of all as it relates to anxiety. Presence. Focusing attention on the sensations of breathing powerfully and permanently deals with the cognitive aspect of anxiety. Worry about future events will no longer rise up because you always have the power to refocus attention into the truth of presence. And with that fog cleared, let us now turn our attention towards the physiological aspect of anxiety. Breathing deeply, recognizing you can keep your attention purely on the sensations of breathing and place no analysis on anything now. No opinions, no interpretations. No names or labels. Don't place any images on any of the sensations in your body. Simply open your awareness to the sensations in your body. But begin here. And this can be very dense, and your body will resist and object, as we have a beautiful external metaphor for that right now. Simply bring your awareness to all of the sensations in the body. But place no analysis, no label, no image, no interpretation, simply observe. Continually breathe, and as attention just drops down and into the sensations of breathing, open that awareness to everything in the body. And recognize that ordinarily we would say, this body feels tense, agitated. There's a kind of energized vibration to it. You might notice sweating, heart racing. Focusing on the breath is very powerful at preventing that hyperventilation too. But just for this time, simply observe, without analysing, whether a feeling is pleasant or unpleasant. Due to the nature of our cognition around anxiety, the nature of our thinking around anxiety, upon recognizing the heart is racing and we're sweating and breathing fast, usually we attach words like panic or anxiety to this physiological sensation. But just whilst we're meditating now, just be aware of these sensations. Continually breathe deeply. And don't try to get rid of these sensations. Don't try to do anything with them. Just leave them alone. Just watch from a distance. They're welcome here. They're fine. It's just the body doing what it does naturally. Ultimately, this is the body trying to help you. It's not trying to hurt you. It's just a natural reaction that is happening in the body. Just a sense of feeling. Something is activated here. There is a powerful energy in the body that is being experienced. But that's all. Just breathing deep and allow yourself to really experience this in the full intensity. And it can be a lot. I know. This may take some practice, but upon recognizing the presence of this activated, nervous, anxious energy in the body, just bring the attention to it, but with a loving, gentle acceptance. Just sensation, that's all. We're not going to try and calm down. That can often just make things worse. Just accept that it's here. Don't do anything with it. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to alter the sensation in any way. Just let the sensation go. And we let that sensation go simply by just not holding on to it. By simply shifting the perspective and intention to say, actually, it's okay that this is here. We understand that in time, this sensation will subside into a more relaxed state of being. But it can do this in its own time. There's no hurry. Recognizing that this bodily reaction isn't actually due to anything happening. It's just a happening. And really feel where you, as an individual, feel the anxiety manifesting. Some people feel a much tighter gut, or feel it in the chest, a tightness. Some people get headaches. I used to get terrible headaches. Some people feel the heart racing more. Some people feel it sweating more. Some people have the shaking more. Just with awareness and no judgments. Do not judge anything. This is just a natural happening. Just assessing. Using this natural knowledge and intuition to gain deep insight into the way your body works. Where does the anxiety manifest in the body? Just breathe into that area. Flood that area with both the breath and your awareness. Loving, accepting, allowing. This feeling is just neutral. It will subside and dissolve in its own time. And all is well. Now, if you meditate or practice this during a time when there is no activation, you feel at your general kind of baseline, what you would usually consider just normal and fairly relaxed. Simply bring the awareness fully to the body and just gently bring the attention and awareness to those particular areas that feel the most activated when the anxiety is present. Even in that relaxed and calm state, just a flushing through the body with attention, awareness, pure, non-judgmental consciousness. Just this. In this time now, this moment, this pure, clear moment. Feeling into the body. And we're not trying to create a relaxed state. Crucial distinction. Trying to relax will only create frustration and further tension. Let go of the habit of analysing and assessing, trying to judge. Is this a good feeling or a bad feeling? We're not worried about positive or negative. We are just experiencing the feeling as it is. Experience the body within the now, this eternal present moment. Whether the anxiety is active or dormant, just awareness within this present moment. Just this, just this, just this. Don't do anything with it. And in time, a very powerful, indescribable intuition arises. There's a familiarity to this feeling. This feeling is ancient. Comes from somewhere. Breathing deep, full awareness of the body. And without placing any image, we don't have an image of a body and like biological words or a biological map of the body. Do not think of yourself like an anatomy chart. What is the actual experience of having a body? It's a cloud of sensation, a field of sensation. Now, without the label of positive or negative, is this really so bad? Ordinarily, the presence of certain feelings will have you in a tailspin. Panicking, dread, horror, not this feeling again, not this feeling again. Sound familiar? But now, instead of that panic and horror and dread, just leave all of that aside and just go straight to the experience itself. Oh, it's not so bad. It just is. It's just a racing heart. There's just an energy here. It's just a whoa, wow, wow. Now you might think, but how's that going to help me? Well, the more you practice this, the more deeply you can immerse yourself in this practice, the more those tensions and energies are free to be released and dissolved. If we were to speak biologically, which we can do, it's just another way of talking about these things. We could say, we have interrupted the anxiety feedback loop. The dysfunction of anxiety arises when the feedback loop picks up in speed. You feel terrible because of the anxiety, and you have anxiety because you feel terrible. But if we break that, we cut that right down the middle, focusing on the presence of your conscious awareness purely within the here and now, without any judgment, without any opinion, label or attachment, and just noticing. Although the energy can be ordinarily uncomfortable, negative feeling, even painful, with a focused clarity, with a precision on the intention of awareness, we find that these sensations are actually neutral. Herein lies a profound, powerful freedom. You may have anxious thoughts such as, well, I can practice this when I'm sat in my room at home, but what about when I'm at work? Well, when you're at work, it will still be the present moment. So that takes care of the cognitive aspect. And when you are at work, you will still be aware of your body. So that takes care of the physiological aspect. You can practice this anywhere at any time. For all our fear of what, for all our fear of how, you are only ever here, and you are only ever now. So that is how meditation cures anxiety. Recognize the power of that practice that I just ran through there. And the two keystones would be presence and non-judgmental awareness. Those are the two to remember. When you feel that panic arise, which it's going to come back, of course it will. This is a habit of a lifetime that we're trying to break, so of course it'll come back. Just remember, snap straight in, sensations of breathing, first thing to do. Thoughts of panic arising, straight to the breath. Present moment, we begin to take the poison out of the sting. And from that perspective of understanding it's only ever the present moment, now you can begin to access the broader services, activities, behaviours and relationships that will facilitate the deeper recovery, that will begin to create a life that supports your recovery. This is what I did. Creating a life that supports your recovery, your transformation. And I'd recommend using this newfound power of presence. Try and get some exercise. The gym might be too much for now, okay? That you maybe go for a walk, do something in your room. Something, just anything. I know that's not always possible. People have various physical problems alongside, so I know it's not always possible, but if you can, just something, some way of moving, it'll burn things through. And when you choose to open up and speak to people about this, about anxiety, make sure that they're people that get it. Preferably people who have been through it themselves, because most people haven't got a Scooby-Doo. That's UK slang for haven't got a clue, alright? They do not have a Scooby-Doo, mate. They do not have a Scooby, we would say. They don't get it. That crowd will say, go for a walk and have a bubble bath. They don't really... This is above the pay grade of Mr. Matey. Alright, son? You ain't gonna get it. Recognise that you haven't done anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. That's the other thing. There's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. This is a condition, a temporary state. So when you open up to people about the condition, just don't be disheartened if most people are very dismissive, very unsupportive, very invalidating. That's people doing what people do. They just aren't going to get it. Speak to a professional. They most often get it, not always, but most of the time they do, at least. They might be able to point you to some groups of people that do get it. It can help. I never went to a group session, but it helps a lot of people. And now that you have that, the presence, the power of the present moment, you can access some of these things. Create a life that supports your recovery and transformation. And the final thing that I will add is truly understand that a full recovery is possible. For some reason, a lot of people are adamant that this is a lifelong genetic thing that you will never recover from. That is a load of garbage. Of course you can recover from it. I don't know why people stick to the belief that nothing can be done. That's the anxiety itself talking. That is despair. Do not go to despair. Instead, always lean in to hope. People recover from anxiety all the time. All the time. It happens across the world every day. People recover from very severe psychiatric issues all the time. Never let anyone tell you that you can't recover. Never let anyone tell you that you can't access the life that you want to be able to access. that is everything I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. I always feel a huge amount of gratitude to people who take a deeper look inwards and are actively engaged in healing, recovery, and awakening. Because by healing yourself, you are taking out a huge chunk of the suffering from the common stock of humanity, and all of humanity is naturally made better for it. So thank you for doing this work with me. I always appreciate any likes and subscribes, that if you want to whack any of those buttons along the bottom on your way out. And I do have a join button somewhere down here if you want to join my channel memberships for a small monthly fee, gain access to my exclusive guided meditations and talks. Some of them are based on Ajatavada, which is the highest meditation possible, and you gain access to my Discord chat rooms, where we discuss many different things, but we have dedicated rooms for the healing, the recovery, and the mental health support as well. Sometimes chatting through with like-minded individuals who share similar experiences can be very beneficial. I think that's everything today, team. Thank you so much for listening. I truly wish you all the best in your recovery. I know how hard it is. I know the hell that you're going through. But, as the old phrase goes, if you're going through hell, keep going. There is a silver lining. Stay with it. I remember those early days. It's horrible. There is a silver lining. Stay with it. Keep fighting. We're going to get through to the other side of this. Take care. Be well. And stay present.